Welcome to the Warning Track Power Hour. I am Dr. Andrew Scaff. He is Dr. Michael Werman, Esquire. We'll talk today about last week's NFL action, recap our ongoing betting competition, which is still incredibly tight as the season is almost coming to an end. We'll talk a little bit about the college football playoff and upcoming championship game. And then eventually we'll get into previewing the final week of the NFL season. I think we'll kick off today talking about some of the crazy action from week 17 in the NFL. Mike, what did you find more entertaining from this week? The Baltimore blowing out Miami, or the crazy finish in the Detroit-Dallas game decided by trying to go for a 2-point conversion, but not successfully for Detroit, making that decision multiple times. They could have changed their minds, but didn't. Between those two things, what did you find more interesting? The blowout or the close,
I guess
just controversial finish?
I guess it was a close game because the finish had both a controversial finish, like with the ineligible receiver, which I've kind of heard a couple different takes on, and I don't think that's that. It was one play that was overturned, and then I think the bigger problem was that Dan Campbell decided to go for it from the 7-yard line both times.
Yeah.
And I guess the second time he didn't. I guess the first time he got a penalty, and the second time it got to the
It was an offside, or
3.5 or
into the
something.
neutral zone. So then it was from the 3.5, 4 yard line. Yeah, something like
But yeah, I don't. I think that was dumb
for the
going
third for
for
the
it
third
from there.
attempt. Yeah.
For the maybe I guess it was not as dumb for the third attempt as it was for the second attempt.
Yeah.
But just kick the extra point and go to overtime. I think Detroit had the momentum, so I would have just let it do it from there. But because I guess maybe you like the guy who's gutsy, but you also want somebody who's smart enough in playoff games and things like that to know what to do when every game matters. And this going for it cost Detroit. They had a trick play that was maybe semi-legal at best, and the referees didn't go for it, and then the weird decision. So yeah, but the Baltimore Miami thing, I guess, was an interesting result, but and Jackson had a good game, and Baltimore just ran all over them.
Yeah.
But it wasn't the most. I guess if you really dislike Miami, it was entertaining. But
But
I
they took control of the 1 seed and locked up their
mhm.
position, at least anyway, for the playoffs. But I don't really like Baltimore. So I
Yeah,
don't enjoy that at all. But
it still remains to be seen if Baltimore has a good playoff offense and a good playoff team, or Lamar Jackson's a good playoff quarterback, because he hasn't really
yeah.
done so well in the playoffs in his still young career. But yeah, the Ravens, they're a team that is very good when they get ahead, but if they get behind, what do you do if you can't? If you're not a pass first off, Lamar
Yeah.
Jackson throws for a bunch of yards and touchdowns, but he does it because the running game is so strong, and because his own running game is so strong. That's the second option. But if it becomes the first option, you know, that teams defend, what are they going to do?
I guess
So
they just picked up Dalvin Cook because he cleared
yeah, that was
waivers too. So he's going to join the backfield then, or potentially he's on the practice squad, I guess, as of now. But they've got a couple weeks to evaluate him, decide if they can make the playoff roster. And
yeah, I thought maybe he might go. The Chiefs might have been a good spot for him, because there's been so many injuries on the Chiefs running back core. I guess they've had that for the Ravens as well. They've had a few injuries, so I think people were thinking Buffalo maybe too, or something. To go with his brother James Cook up there, but yeah, Baltimore got him. Yeah, the Chiefs didn't make any playoff kind of
splashing moves.
splashy moves in
Yeah.
midseason, like Terrell Suggs, or Frank. There was no reunion with Frank Clark. For
Right. That fizzled. It seemed like he might rejoin Chiefs and then
yeah,
kind of disappeared. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think Chris Jones also recently wanted Frank Clark again because I think Frank Clark was just cut recently from the Seahawks. Also, Zach Ertz, I think, has been out there for a little bit. Uh,
Yeah,
he hasn't re-signed with anyone, has he? Not that I
not that I've
know of.
heard anyway. Yeah,
And maybe he would have been somebody that would have been a good complement to Kelsey.
mm.
He's not what he once was, but he is, still a person who can catch passes. I think. I don't know, maybe not.
Yes,
I don't know. He only had 187 yards in 7 games this year, but
yeah.
um
But on a team that wasn't trying very hard,
that
and
was a pre as a pre it was a pre Kyler Murray
yeah,
uh Cardinals team. Murray hadn't come back from injury at that point. But yeah, Ertz at one point was maybe one of the top 3 or 4 tight ends in the league,
yeah.
but it's been a few years. I mean, he's the same. I think he's the same age as Kelsey.
Is that right?
Do you think Kelsey is declining, or is it simply that teams are focusing on him more? He only had 16 yards, and he's in danger, depending on what happens next week, of not getting an 8th straight 1,000-yard season. I think he's at 984 right now. So
Yeah, yeah.
he
Just 16 yards short is what the article that I had seen. Yeah,
and he only got 60. I think he had 16 last week, so he had like 5
he
catches
got
for 60
halfway there,
yards.
but
Yeah,
so it seems like he's probably going to play the beginning of
yeah,
the game at least. Anyway, you'd think he'd have to because he wants.
yeah. That's
But he and the team, I would think, would want him to continue that streak if they can.
yeah. So yeah, like,
Maybe he'll play a few downs, maybe to see if they can get him that 16 yards, and then shut him down for the day.
yeah. As
Because
as
Mahomes isn't going to play.
Yeah, as hinted, the Chiefs do not have. We haven't gotten the next week yet, but
Yeah,
Chiefs don't have really anything to play for next week because they're locked into the 3 seed after having beaten the Cincinnati Bengals. What did you think? Did you think they did a good job overall against the Bengals?
some of the issues were still there. Like they were still like kicking field goals instead of getting touchdowns, but for the most part, they had more successful drives anyway. So they played a better game, but it still isn't up to what our expectations were for them, I think, for this season. Is that how you saw it also, or were you impressed with it?
No, I was impressed with the defense played in the second half.
Absolutely.
They really turned it around after I don't know if it was a bad first half, but a first half where I think it was 17 points were allowed. 10 of them were maybe on the defense, and the 7 was basically on that Mahomes strip sack. But it was, I think the defense. It was like the last 2 games or last few games in a row. The defense has really uh, come through in the second half, especially in the Raiders game. They didn't allow a completed pass in the second
Right.
half. They, I think they really shut down the Patriots in the second half as well, and then they've, shut down the Bengals in the second half. So it seems like it was the first half defense was really good, and then the second half they get let a few points in, and now it's the second half defense is the lockdown. Maybe they get behind sometimes in the beginning of the games, and the team has to catch up. This was I think Mahomes is back over 500 now for being down 10 points and then winning. I think he had gone all the way down to 500 because of the
Oh
team's
wow.
struggles this year in his career, but now I think he's won over again. I can't remember what the record is, but I think that's where it stands. I was, I don't know. I guess the kicking. I was impressed by Butker's kicking. He had a
Yeah.
couple little glitches in his perfect season in the last few games, but he's been he was lights out yesterday or on Sunday, so it was something to I think something to watch. And kicking has been really. It seems like kicking has been really good for a lot of teams this year.
Yeah.
I think Dallas's kicker is still is
Perfect on the year.
perfect on the year, if I'm
Really?
correct.
That's impressive.
Yeah, Brandon Aubrey. He was a former soccer player, Brandon Aubrey. He played professional soccer. He's 28 years old. This is his rookie season.
Wow. Yeah, 35 of 35.
35 of 35.
The longest of 60 though too. So it's not like they're only using him on shorter kicks.
Mm-hmm.
Have run him out to 60 yards. 9 of 9, 50 plus. He has missed 3 extra points though.
Oh, he's missed 3 extra points. So I guess he's missed one more kick total than Butker has. Butker's only missed two field goals. He's made all his extra points this year. This, I think, is Butker's best season as a Chief. I think by maybe a good stretch, because he was always pretty good, but he would miss a few here and there. This season, he's really not. Yeah, he's excellent.
37 of 37 for Butker. Not anywhere close though to Jake Moody from San Francisco. 58 for 58 extra points in the season.
Moody. Well, that's what you get when you score touchdowns.
He's only taken 24 field goal attempts on the season, which is a low number for that many.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what you're saying now. Touchdowns and field goals. The Chiefs have gone pretty high on the field goal numbers.
Yeah, they've just been low on touchdowns, low on scoring in general. At least they got scored on several different drives here, but I think and they've traditionally had a very tough time with the Cincinnati defense too. So it might be a good sign. Even though they didn't play Burrow, they still played the top Cincinnati defense. And then Cincinnati was still, even though now they've been eliminated from the playoffs, they were still fighting for their playoff lives. So they had they're playing against a team that had a lot of incentives to try to win it.
Were you impressed with Snead's ability to shut down another number 1 receiver then?
Yeah, he had that one penalty, the one penalty, but other than that, he really did a great job on Chase. They held
him catches 41 yards is all that Chase catch for the game.
Yeah, So Snead has been, he's always been a good player, but he's been really, really good this year. So it's one of those. I don't know if the Chiefs. Do you think the Chiefs? He's going to be a free agent. Do you think the Chiefs will try to keep him? Would you keep Snead, or would you keep Chris Jones? Maybe that's going to be the question.
And that offensive, the defensive line seems to be really strong. I think if you had to choose between the two, I'd almost have to lean towards Snead, because you just can't find guys like that can shut down those number 1 receivers that well anyway, unless they think they can find someone else that
with Snead
do a similar job.
I think Snead won't cost as much as Jones either. Jones is going to be $30+ million a year. Maybe Jones would be about half that. So maybe you could get 2 guys in, maybe a wide receiver or something like that.
Yeah,
keep Snead,
let one of them go, and then
keep Tranquil or Gay and Snead, something like that. But I think that's a big question. Or you could also say, though, is the Chiefs defensive line so good because Chris Jones occupies 2 or 3 blockers all the time, and the other guys can, make plays.
Right.
That
defensive line is so strong though. Like when they try to, when they actually are like rushing the passer, they're getting back there with tackles too, which is not always what you see from a defensive line. Usually it's from the edge rushers that are the ones that get back there. But yeah, it's been really impressive.
Yeah, I think especially since Amenhue has been on the line, Chris Jones and Karl Aftis, and then Noddy or whoever's going to be, the other guys. They are really Mike Dana has had a lot of success too. So the defense this is a team. This is I don't know. It seems like a Marty Schottenheimer team almost. It's a defensive first team, and the offense kicks a lot of field goals and doesn't score a lot of points, but they can, and historically, Marty Ball was not successful in the playoffs. Do you think the Chiefs will be more successful? Will they you think, this is a couple weeks out now. You think they're going to be the 3 seed? Do they win multiple playoff games?
I've been holding out hope for most of the season that, saying that this, they're a playoff team in waiting, essentially, that maybe been trying to hold back what their intentions are or how they're going to play their games in general while they're just waiting for the playoffs because they know they're going to make a deep run. It hasn't been very encouraging though. They've won some of these games though, so uh, I still am really excited to see what happens in that first playoff game. If they light it up, then I'm not going to be worried at all, I think. But well, we should know pretty quick
Yeah,
that first game.
even compared to last year, it seemed like at least with a healthy-ish Mahomes, they could score a lot of points in the playoffs in ways that were a little easier than scoring points in the regular season. They scored well in the regular season last year, but it seems like when Mahomes was healthy, that first series against Jacksonville, they looked unstoppable. They basically were unstoppable until Mahomes got hurt, and then he kind of labored his way through the Jacksonville game and Cincinnati game. But then once maybe he was feeling a little bit better against Philadelphia, that's also when the Chiefs could score kind of at will again. So maybe you think that these guys, there's essentially the same guys. Sky Moore and Kadarius Toney each caught touchdown passes in the Super Bowl, and we
Right.
thought that was going to be their coming out party. But
Yeah.
they're terrible, at least by their standards, and
Yeah.
it's been a slog. Yeah, I don't know if the Chiefs, but at least the Chiefs are in the playoffs. Maybe this is a way to segue into our discussion of the betting. We're talking about of our bets last week. They're not the Buffalo Bills, who have the same record as the Chiefs, but could be anywhere from the second seed to the eighth or ninth, being enough to be out of
Yeah.
the playoffs.
I actually don't know if there's anything in between. I think they are either the two or they are out. Well,
I
depending on if like Houston wins, I think,
I
right?
think they can be a 6 or 7.
Yeah. It does matter. Yeah. There are a couple other games that matter.
So Buffalo had to win against New England, but I thought New England was going to keep it close, uh, and they did. Buffalo only beat New England 27-21 with at home, and they were favored by 13.5. So I bet New England plus 13.5, and I got that as my first victory of my picks from last week. Is Buffalo? Yeah, Buffalo is a dangerous team. If they, we'll talk about them maybe matching up against Miami a little bit later. Are they a team you would want the Chiefs to play in the playoffs, or are they a team you'd want the Chiefs to stay away from?
I don't think you ever want to play them, but yeah, there's a pretty good chance that they would. Yeah, they would either be the 2, the 6, or the 7. Those are the three
So the
positions.
Chiefs could
If
either
they're
host
in
them
or they're
as
out.
this,
Yeah.
yeah.
If the Steelers and Jaguars win and Buffalo loses, then the Buffalo's out.
That's a pretty big possibility too, because Miami could easily beat the Bills, and then Jacksonville is favored, and so is Pittsburgh now. And we'll talk about those
With
games.
yeah, with Baltimore resting because their seat is locked. So yes, I mean
Yeah,
those are not unlikely scenarios.
yeah. Speaking of an unlikely scenario, we were each 3-0 in our bets this week. So that's something to shout from the rooftops for Warren Shark Power Hour. I don't think we haven't been 6-0 this year. I think maybe we were 6-0 once last year, but
I know because I wasn't 3-0 last season at all.
oh,
I
maybe we were
remember that.
5-0-1 or something, or 5-1 sometimes.
Maybe something like that. Yeah.
But we were each 3-0. And so what was your first winning lock of the week? So our locks were actual locks this week.
Yes.
Hindsight being 2020.
Let's see. You went with your biggest spread first, I think, here. So I can go with my biggest spread also. I had San Francisco minus 12.5 at Washington, and San Francisco won their game fairly handily, clearing that by what they won by 17, I believe.
27-10. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, more than enough to cover the 12.5 point spread.
Yes. Yeah, that was a solid bet. Um,
And
Are you?
that was them sort of reestablishing themselves after struggling the week before. Seemed like that
Against,
would be how that would that would be what their goal was. And
yeah, against Baltimore.
yeah.
Yeah, Baltimore. So Baltimore really, I think we mentioned this before. Like, yeah, Baltimore basically beat the same team twice in a row. So is that, you might say, well, they had the practice against San Francisco. They've been preparing for Miami for 2 weeks because they played San Francisco and they also played Miami, which is the same offense essentially as San
Yeah.
Francisco. Um, the quarterbacks are pretty similar in there. I think if they can get the ball out with time and they don't get flustered and turn the ball over, they both are pretty good quarterbacks. The running games are for both are really top notch. The receivers are really good, but the scheme is the exact same. So is maybe does Baltimore simply match up well against that Shanahan offense? And if they don't play the Shanahan offense, like if they haven't, they end up playing the Bills or they end up playing the Chiefs. They've already lost this year, I think, to the Browns, and they've lost to the Steelers.
Yeah, I think so.
Two other potential playoff opponents. So, they're playing the Steelers again this week. I think Baltimore right now looks like a juggernaut, but I think there are still questions for them.
And they're always at risk for, an injury to Lamar Jackson if he's running the ball a lot and not, getting out of bounds. If
Yeah,
he takes a couple of hits, then you have to wonder if, if he has to come out, what if they have any chance at all once that scenario comes up.
yeah, they do play on artificial turf, which is not as injury friendly, not as friendly as grass. Even the newer surfaces are not quite as good as grass at preventing injuries. Um, we mentioned I think Baltimore was going to play Pittsburgh. Speaking of Pittsburgh, I picked Pittsburgh and I've been really successful with Pittsburgh this year. I think I probably picked them 7 or 8 times, and I probably won at least 5 or 6 times out of that many when I
Most of them for sure.
pick the Steelers. So I ended up going with Pittsburgh plus 3.5 at Seattle, and they ended up not only covering but winning outright 30-23. So they,
Which I think is what you expected, at least I didn't believe on the show you thought that they would win outright.
I thought that was a major possibility at least, and
Yeah.
they ended up doing it. So my prognostications were perfect in that one. They seem to have really had a decent offense with Mason Rudolph under center, and they've scored 30 points the last 2 games. So they're going to want to carry that over to Baltimore. If they beat Baltimore, they have a chance of being in the playoffs. Baltimore is already the #1 seed; they're locked in. Lamar Jackson's not going to play, so who knows what can happen there? But yeah, Pittsburgh here was an underdog against Seattle, and they won by 7. I think Pittsburgh was thought to be underdogs in their final 3 games, which they needed to win to try to make it the playoffs. And then they beat the Bengals, they beat the Seahawks, and now we'll see if they can beat the Ravens.
Yeah, because where will they end up if
I
they
think
still
if they
shot?
win, they need some help still. I think,
Let's see. So they can actually still lose and make it, but it will be a slog.
yeah,
It looks like they can either be the 6 or 7 seed or out.
yeah. Right now, I think,
They need help either way to get in. Yeah.
yeah, I think they need Houston to beat Indianapolis. I think is their way, or maybe they need Indianapolis.
No, that it doesn't matter at all. It
It
looks like
doesn't matter at all.
if the Steelers win and the Titans win, then they're in. Then they're in, but their seed is dependent on the Dolphins Bills
I
game.
see. So the
Or
Titans have to beat the Jaguars.
that's their easiest route. If the Steelers win and the Jaguars win, they can still make it if the Dolphins beat the Bills. And then that's a scenario where the Bills are out and then
Yes, and
Pittsburgh would be in.
so it's they need to win in either the Dolphins or the the Titans have to win.
Right.
Okay,
Well,
that's
the Dolphins, if the Dolphins win either way, that's good for them.
yeah.
And then yeah, then it's if the Titans win, then that seals it. And then but if they lose, it looks like if the Titans and Broncos win, then they would still make it into the 7th seed because it would knock the Raiders out.
And I think yeah, I think it would make like a four-way 9-8 tie or something like that.
Must be.
And I
I
think
thought the Raiders were eliminated.
no, it would not. I think so. I think if it would, if the Colts, I think there would be a 9-8 tie. If the Bengals, I think the Bengals also have to win. If the Bengals win, the
Or maybe the strength
Steelers,
of schedule thing with the Broncos.
yeah. So like if it's 4 9 and 8s, I think the Steelers somehow win the tiebreaker. Uh,
Oh,
and so if it's 9 and 8 teams battling for the 7th spot, I think the Steelers win the tiebreaker. But
wow.
um, going in, we neither of us think the Steelers are very good, really, but they've been able to win games with Mike Tomlin at the command, and by having different quarterbacks too. It's been
So third different quarterback on the season?
yeah, third different quarterback. Started out with Kenny Pickett, then Mitchell Trubisky, and then Mason Rudolph.
I did hear that Joe Flacco has passed Pickett for touchdowns in the third game, I believe. Right? Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah, he has. Yeah, Flacco's been really good for the
Yeah.
Browns, and the Browns handily beat the Jets. Did you have it? Were better on that game, weren't you?
Not on the spread, but on the over under, and that was the Thursday night game. Jets at Cleveland. I know we had talked about the Thursday night games have been high scoring affairs recently.
Mm-hmm.
I think every game in the last 5 weeks had hit the over by, in most cases, like by a lot. And so I had taken the over on at 34.5. And Cleveland nearly got there on their own at halftime. It was
Yeah,
34 points, but the over had already been tripped because the Jets, I think, had
17 at that point.
17.
Yeah,
It was well over at the half. Easy win.
and it didn't even matter that only
Not
6
much
points were
coming
scored
back.
after halftime.
Yeah, and they're 6 fourth quarter points combined made up the entire second half. Yes, scoring, which is I'm glad that they had a lot of scoring early because I didn't care anymore. I didn't have to listen to it either, so
Yeah,
I made it easy. No sweat on that one. That was a nice one to you know, a true lock in that case.
yeah. Well, I really had to sweat for my last one that came out. That was the Raiders at Indianapolis. The score ended up being 20-17 Indianapolis, but the Raiders covered because they were a plus 3.5 point underdog. So they sneaked in. They only lost by 3. So that made me 3-0 as well. And the Raiders, though, they were down 20-10 in closing minutes, and they actually were at I think it was 4th down even. They were in the 4th and goal, or they scored a touchdown to Devontae Adams to pull it to within 3, 20-17. And then they, I guess, tried to kick an onside kick and go from there, but that didn't end up working out for them. But they did cover for me in the waning seconds. And it's also good they didn't kick the field goal first and then try to onside kick and go for the touchdown like the Chargers did to the Chiefs at one point, which also I think cost me a spread if they had the kicking the field goal. I think that so this way I guess I get one back from the Raiders.
No.
They did it the way I wanted them to do it, and yeah, only lost by 3. So
the traditional logic route, they would have been, yes.
yeah, so I was quite happy about how that one turned out, and you were also happy about the way your third lock of the week turned out. A solid lock as usual.
It was another, not so much sweating the result on that one either. It was a Houston minus 5.5 against Tennessee. Tennessee kind of seems like they're maybe done for the year. Houston had Stroud back, which seemed to like help them quite a lot. The final score was 23-3, and a comfortable win though for Houston. Is that right?
26 to it was 26-3.
26-3. It's a 23-point
23-point victory. Yeah.
victory. Yes. It only needed 5.5 though, so we only needed 6. So plenty
A
to
23-3 victory would have been just fine with you, even.
also fine. Yes.
Do any other games stand out to you last week?
Well, maybe just to wrap up then, yeah. So we're both 3 and
Yeah,
0.
let's talk about.
On the season now, you're back to 500, 25 and 1, Mike.
Yes, like a coin flipper. I guess one time it landed on its
Right on the side, yes.
yeah, like those trick shot guys that do you ever watch those videos on YouTube, the trick shots?
Yeah.
Where it takes them, I guess, like 40 hours of trying to throw a ping pong ball into a cup that's on a bicycle wheel or something by
Yeah.
bouncing it off the
Off of
head
other
off the
cups or something like
yeah. That's
right.
would
But one of those times it works, and then that's
one of those times out of
keep.
thousands and thousands. They should would you watch the uncut versions of those?
In its entirety, not
Yeah.
split up. No. I would not want to be present for that, I don't think so. Yeah.
That takes a lot of stamina to do all that.
Unless you just do it on the first time. That's the easiest way to do it.
I think sometimes they do end up getting it right very early, or when they throw like a dart through the hole in the Cheez-It or something. Have you seen those?
Yeah. The more entertaining ones are like the throwing like bowling balls off of the top of like dams, like this like just junk they have piled up on the ground, like a mile below, basically. Those are more entertaining to watch. Like the feats of just watching stuff break, I guess, is what they're really.
That's sort of what old David Letterman used to do, just drop stuff off the roof of the building and see what happens.
Yeah.
Or will it float? Did you remember that one?
Right.
When they decided to throw whatever into a pool and debate, will it float or not float?
Right.
That's also a little bit like, it's like do you watch the show Is It Cake?
I never have. I've seen clips of it, but yeah, I've not watched the show. I mean, I can't imagine how it's in the whole show, though. Is it?
Is It Cake?
Is it entertaining to watch that?
MJ's daughter's like Is It Cake. It's funny to watch for a couple minutes, I think, but
Yeah.
I don't know how long.
Now, do you bet on those?
Is
Is
it cake?
or is it not cake? What would your record be on that?
I think I am
better than your 25 and 1.
I think I'm better than 50-50 on Is It Cake or not. Especially if I watch
is it always cake?
on MJ's TV. She has a really big TV, so maybe it's easier to tell if it's cake or not. If it's fondant or if it's actual plastic or something like that. Yeah. I'd say I'm 70-30 on Is It Cake. Sometimes
I just assume it's always cake. Is that not the case?
No, it's not always cake, but
some of the time it is not cake. I don't understand why.
It's often cake. Sometimes they'll try to cut into the volleyball, and it's a real volleyball. It's not a cake volleyball.
They have to eat it though, either way, right?
It will be served either way. How clever. I just thought of that right as I went along. I didn't even you
weren't reading the teleprompter that we set up for you?
No, I was not. We have these shows, as everyone can tell, are very scripted, and we follow as tight,
almost overly scripted, and honestly.
Yeah. Every and is choreographed like a ballet, and that's how things operate here at the One Trick Power Hour. Every time we stumble over each other or we don't know where to go from here. It's
Yeah,
all part of the act. It's part of the show, folks. We
it's a
we we,
charm. It's a
we
charm.
really know what we're doing. Excellent writers that we have.
Right.
Um, but yeah, so I'm 25-25-1, and you are on the contrary, 26-24, or
26 and
26 and 25,
25.
26
Yeah.
25, 26 and
Plus
25.
$100 across the entire season. Yeah.
So all will come down to week 18, when many teams do not care about the results really. They, especially the ones that are in playoff, that are either locks for the playoffs, or maybe teams that want to get the number one seed. But that's already been locked. It's going to be the Bears, with the Panthers number one pick.
Taking the Panthers number one pick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think the Bears should keep Justin Fields, or do you think they should go for take them and do the number one pick, and try to draft somebody?
Yeah, that's going to be the big question because it seems like Fields is playing really well the last few weeks, and the Bears have won a couple of games here to close out the season. So it's making it even harder on them to make the decision. But it seems like the Bears fans may be even fairly well split as to whether or not they should try to go elsewhere or stick with Fields. If you can get a really big trade package like what came up last season,
Yeah,
then you have to consider it though too. So it's
I think, yeah, I would
Fields is
consider
he
a
is a
trade.
competent player. It just seems like they're missing people around him. So maybe if they could get two or three players, maybe that would be a better way to go about it than replacing a guy that they've already got a couple of years invested in without really seeing much success. But he's not the only problem on the team. That's not the issue. If he's even considered a problem, there are lots of
Yeah,
holes on that team.
yeah. You'd say the Bears were close to being a playoff team with Fields, at least with winning most of their last games. They started out in too big of a hole to dig out of, but
Yeah.
they became a sort of fringe-ish NFC playoff team. And you think, well, we get a couple pieces here and there with Fields, we can be a playoff team next year, even with or without Matt Eberflus, says the coach. He may have saved his job with the way the team has played the last few weeks. Yeah, I don't know. But you also say, well, if you trade Fields, we'll get a draft pick or two, maybe, or a player as well. But I am almost on the. I guess I don't see the. I guess it's a deep quarterback draft, but I don't. I guess I don't see it as guaranteed. These prospects just can't miss as much as maybe some others do. Since I think Caleb Williams last year was seen as can't miss, but then his season this year was not as good as it was the year before.
Yeah.
Drake May from North Carolina, I think people think is like another Justin Herbert, but um, Justin Herbert hasn't been able to lift his team too much, you know, in for the lift his team very, put them onto his shoulders and take them into the very far into the playoffs. So
Yeah.
it's I think these are good quarterbacks, but maybe not. I don't know there's a Mahomes or a Josh Allen uh, talent with that much. Maybe Caleb Williams has that upside, but I don't know.
Yeah.
You never know, I guess, with the draft. And you do know that Justin Fields is a good running quarterback. He's, I'd say this side of Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, he's probably he's a pretty top dual threat guy. And look at what Lamar Jackson was able to accomplish this year and a couple of years ago. So maybe, the Bears could model their offense more off of what the Ravens do with Jackson. So
Yeah.
yeah, with and keep and keep Fields at the same time. So Fields, I think, was a really good passer as in college. So maybe I don't know, something can click with him. But
Seems like, yeah, if the package is available to trade that number one pick and you can get multiple players to fill in gaps around Fields, then it seems like that would be probably the best way to go. Because it seems like they're not that far away from being a contender right now with Fields,
yeah,
the known commodity of fields that they already have.
I guess you could say, well, maybe if we have a good rookie quarterback, he'd step in from day one, like CJ Stroud, and be a good player, and we'd have maybe cheaper years ahead of us because this is going to be his. Though the number one pick, Fields was only the number 11 pick, so he's not going to be. He was not as expensive in years 2, 3, 4 as the number one overall pick would be. So, but at least you're pushing that expense down the road a little bit if you dump Fields. But yeah, it's interesting thought. We're talking a little bit more about college football. Do we want to talk about the college football playoff?
Maybe we should finish our big board stuff though.
Oh, let's finish the big board. Okay.
We haven't talked about that quite yet anyway.
No, we haven't mentioned the big board.
You had a great week this week, Mike. I don't know if you looked at the final numbers though, but you were up just shy of $1,400.
Yes, this is by far my best week.
29% return on your bets from the all 48 picks that were made.
Yeah, I was 13 out of 16 on the money line, 11 out of 16 on both the spread and the over under. So it was by far my best week. Of course, this is the last week of probably, full strength teams playing each other, at least before the playoffs. So I don't know if I'll be able to catch up further before the regular season is over, but I feel good. This is by far my best week. I'm still down $7,000 on the season, but it's down about 9,000 to you. So, but it's better than being even farther back.
And the last game of the week made a big difference in you versus me, because there was a chance that I could actually top you this week if the game went the complete opposite way. But you ended up taking all three of the final game picks as Green Bay beat up on Minnesota, which I didn't expect at all. And they hit the over, and they stayed under by 1.5 points, which got you about $1,000 pickup on my position on the week then, Mike. So yes. I was still up $375. But yeah, you picked up $1,000 on me.
That's just the way I drew it up.
Yeah.
I did pick Green Bay to win. I still think probably Joshua Dobbs gives Minnesota the best chance at winning, and I'm not quite sure why they decided to go away from him, even though he had a couple of games that weren't so good. But they traded for him simply because he was somebody who could step in and play better than any of the people that they had. But I didn't quite understand why he was out so quickly in Minnesota. But and Green Bay's been playing pretty well as of late, and they're still and Love has been playing pretty well. So yeah, I just went with Green Bay, and they won 33-10. So I didn't think they'd win by that much, but I actually thought it would be closer, lower scoring. But I sneaked under the under, which was 44.5, and it was 43 points total. So it was a close. All these are pretty close shaves. So this was one of the closer ones.
Were there other games that you were interested in, excited about, or angered you at the last minute or something with outcomes that you weren't expecting? You did pretty well. I mean, you got 73% of your picks.
Yeah, I
don't think you were too flabbergasted this week.
No, this week everything just seemed to be going my way. I won, the first, several money lines. I got most, after the Thursday and Saturday games, I really did well on the spread. I did pretty well on the over under all the way through. So it just it was a week where I could just be kind of happy the way the things turned out.
Yeah. Probably the most surprising game though was Philly dropping to Arizona.
Yes, that was surprising.
Yeah.
Although Philadelphia has not played very well, they've let a lot of points score, and Arizona with Kyler Murray as a more dangerous team than maybe some than they seem. So that makes sense. And yeah, Philadelphia. Would when we talked? It was last week. We asked, would you rather be a Philadelphia? Would you rather be Philadelphia or Kansas City? Right about now.
Yeah.
I think Kansas City has moved even further into the lead.
I think so.
Especially because I think because I think the Philadelphia fans are less forgiving than the Kansas City fans, and Philadelphia can't fall back on their Super Bowl win last year like the Chiefs can. They lost the Super Bowl in kind of to them agonizing fashion, and they won 2017 or something like that, but it's been a few years that shine has worn off, and I think in Philadelphia, yeah, I'd worry, especially if Philadelphia loses to they're going to be in the playoffs, but they still could lose to the Giants this week, given how they played last week.
The Giants played all right, I guess, this most recent week, but it's they still lost, but it was close to
they lost just barely to the Rams.
Yeah, but yeah. Anyway, much better week though from us, both in the green, in the black. Yes, in the money. Either way.
Congratulations to us.
Yeah.
Do we want to move on to college football before we talk about this week?
Sure.
We had the college football playoff, the 4 teams that were in it. We also had the 5th and 6th place game.
Maybe the more entertaining from Schadenfreude perspective, maybe.
Yeah, this was at the Orange Bowl. So in Miami, it was Georgia, which lost to Alabama in the SEC championship game, was number 1 team going in, but bumped all the way down to number 5.
Two-time defending champion.
Two-time defending champion, Georgia.
Yes. And 2 consecutive championships, right? Yeah.
Yes. And Florida State, which was in the top 4 and was undefeated, ended up going all the way to number 6. And neither of those teams was happy that they were left out of the top 4. But we had a game that was a little bit similar to last year's title game between TCU and Georgia. What was the score of that game? It was
ugly. Yeah. I don't remember what the final was. I think it was
65 to 7.
Yeah.
65 to 7. This was 63 to 3. So they won by 2 more points than they did in the title game.
Yeah. Yikes. And Florida State being left out led to lawsuits even filed by the state of Florida against the committee for making the decision. And the Florida State players and coaches and fans continued to talk about how even if they won the game against Georgia, that they should still be considered national champions. And then many of their players opted out from the game itself, and then they were drubbed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Did you find that amusing at least?
I found it somewhat amusing. It was sad. It's also a lot of these teams are also they didn't opt out because they're transferring and things like that.
Yeah.
Some are trying to protect draft position, I think too, but it's one of those things where if you're Georgia as well, you could say, well, we were really the best team. We lost 1 game to Alabama, and well, that wasn't so maybe Georgia should be number 1. But yeah, it was not an entertaining game to watch, and it was. I think it made it look like at least the committee made the right choice to leave Florida State out, but maybe it didn't make the right choice to not keep Georgia in. Although there were 2 very good national semifinal games at the
very competitive games, very close, down to the wire, both cases.
Yeah, Alabama lost to Michigan 27-20. I think some of us thought Alabama was going to beat Michigan and win the national championship as a number 4 seed just because That's what they seem to do. It's been a little while since Alabama. I think they haven't won since COVID season now. So it's been like 3 or 4 years since Alabama has won the
Ages
national
ago,
title.
basically like a
Yeah,
millennia.
yeah, yeah. So were you and then we had a close game between Washington and Texas, where Washington got out to a decent sized lead and then held on to defeat Texas at the last minute. Uh, uh, which performance is more impressive to you, Dr. Scaff? Michigan's beating Alabama, or Washington's taking down Texas?
I think the Michigan win is probably the more impressive of the two. Not that the other one wasn't impressive. It's just, Nick Saban has this whole thing like aura around him of being a juggernaut no matter what. If he gets into the playoff, he's going to be dangerous if nothing else. And Michigan being able to like take them down is probably, that's a big deal. It's a lot of talk and everything that goes around these games that has to be in the heads of the coaches and players when they get in there. Just knowing that it's Alabama, uh, you know, taking them down it is a big deal. So I think that was probably the more maybe the more impressive of the two, just
Yeah,
because of the pedestal that everyone seems to put Saban on, and Alabama. That
yeah. I think watching the games, I was surprised that the game was as close as it was, because it seemed like Michigan was manhandling
mm,
Alabama in a lot of those, especially in the first half. But they had penalties here and there, and they had a couple of miscues on special teams. They just didn't pull away from Alabama and allowed Alabama to hang around and tie the game and keep in regulation. But I thought that Washington and Texas seemed more evenly matched. Both games were extremely close, but I thought, I don't know, just from watching it, if I didn't know what the final score was, I thought, well, the Texas Washington game, that can go either way. Both teams were scoring a lot of points.
mm,
But I thought Michigan outplayed Alabama. So I think maybe going into so it was a matchup between once and future, or current and future Big Ten schools versus current and future SEC schools, and the Big Ten won both of those games. And it's going to be a future Big Ten match between Washington and Michigan in the playoff on January, and the playoff final on January 8th. Do you think that Big Ten is going to be a better football conference than the SEC now, with the additions of Oregon and Washington?
I still don't have any idea how those are going
UCLA,
to play out,
USC.
because they can't play enough of the teams from of the entire conference once it's now like what, 16 teams?
I think the Big
Was it
Ten
18
is going to
teams?
be, it's 14 right now. It's going to be 18.
Yeah.
The SEC is also going to be 18.
Yeah, so I just don't know how you play enough teams to really know who's going to be the best. And like there's going to be unbalanced schedules where, some teams have to play tougher opponents in this particular year. So I don't really know that it's really going to be more dominant or more obvious who the dominant teams are from the conference at the end of the conference season. So I don't really know that it is any better than it would have been otherwise. So I don't know.
I think, yeah,
I just know the Pac-12 will be not representing anything
the
worthy.
Pac-2 of Washington State
Yeah.
and Oregon State. Well, we talked about Florida State. Florida State seems like they're trying to jump ship from the ACC, and they might land in one of those conferences, or they might land in the Big 12. So that would maybe put the Big 12, I think, is third in the pecking order now, even though
Yeah.
they, with the grabbing of Arizona and Arizona State and Utah. But
Yeah.
yeah, and was there one more that they?
I think that's it. I'm not positive though right now.
Colorado. We didn't
Oh,
mention Colorado.
Colorado too. Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Coming from
with
churning.
Dion. Yeah,
Yeah.
as long as he's
But
there anyway.
I do think the matchup though of the final is the one that you would hope for. It's the two undefeated teams that remain. I think that's the situation that you'd want to see, is that the two teams that didn't lose all season are now facing each other.
Yeah,
That's yeah, what you would hope. I think what Michigan I think is favored by
I think four and a
four
half.
and a half.
And it's new teams too. It's not the same old. It's not Clemson. It's not Georgia. It's not Alabama. It's not Ohio State. It seems like it's the ones that haven't been in it quite as much recently. Michigan was in the playoff last year, but Washington's been a little while since
Yeah.
Washington has been ranked this high. So yeah, that'll be an interesting game to watch. It'll come on January 8th, after the day on Monday night after next weekend's NFL games. Do you want to talk about next weekend's matchups and our potential locks of the week? You think we have a good shot at being 6-0 in our last 2 weeks, each of us?
Each of us. Ooh, I don't know, man. This week is going to be really tricky because there are a lot of teams that aren't playing for anything. There are a lot of teams that are playing for a lot but may not play so well. There are a lot of players sitting out this week, so it's going to be really tricky. I know I had a much harder time finding games that I really wanted to pick, and I don't know that I'm that confident about the picks that I did make. So if we go 6-0, I will be shocked, but very impressed.
You'll eat your hat
No, no, but I'll be very
as
surprised.
Scrooge McDuck would often make Flintheart Glomgold do in DuckTales, the original DuckTales series. So I guess we are each going for who will be the richest duck in the world. We are so close right now. I am in the Glomgold position. I am $100 behind you in our locks of the week. So maybe this will be the chance for me to overtake you in your number one dime and really cement myself as the leader in the clubhouse here, the winner of the regular season. But so yeah, I had a hard time picking as well. So I actually ended up not doing any spreads at all because I don't know which teams are playing for. Which teams are really going to bring it, which teams aren't, and how those teams will match up without quarterbacks and things like that. So it's a little more like preseason to me.
Right.
And so preseason I had success with the over unders, and so I decided to try over unders for the finale of the regular season as well. So I have 3 over under picks. Should I reveal my first pick, or do you want to
Go for it?
Okay. One of these games is a divisional clash between the Kansas City Chiefs and the Los Angeles Chargers. Patrick Mahomes is not playing. Blaine Gabbert is playing. We don't know who's playing for the Chargers. I think Nick Bosa or Joey Bosa is out for the Chargers, and Keenan Allen I think is out for the Chargers, and of course Justin Herbert is out for the Chargers. It's going to be Easton Stick probably at quarterback. So I don't know what to expect in this game in terms of will the Chiefs win or not, but I do think there will be some points scored, and the over-under is only 35. It's very low. Not quite the lowest of the week. I think. Did you bet on the lowest of the week?
I thought about it, and then I have opted against it. But yeah, that's the New York Jets.
30.5. That's the lowest.
30.5 points.
That's like an University of Iowa football game over-under.
Right. But if you're going to take the under, like say in the Iowa-Tennessee bowl game, then if that was 30, you would have lost because Tennessee scored 35 points, I think, right? In that,
yes,
35 to 9 in that one. So yeah.
Oh, those Hawkeyes.
Oh, poor Iowa.
Dr. Scaff, of course, is an alumnus of Iowa State University, Iowa's major rival. And so yeah, you were happy that Iowa lost. I don't know if of the Jets, New England, I think of that as maybe leaning over simply because it's such a low, but it's Trevor Siemian at quarterback. It's basically like the Jets are a lot like Iowa. They have a good defense. They don't score very many points usually on offense, although they've had a couple of explosions here and there.
A couple weeks they've scored. Well, the last 2 weeks they've averaged 25 points a game. So
yeah, that's not bad.
That's
Trevor Siemian starting at quarterback.
That's a lot if your over under is only 30. So yeah.
And I guess it's Bailey Zappi again. And what might be Bill Belichick's last game as coach, at least of the
Possible.
Patriots. Well, maybe we can talk about what happens with Belichick next week. If this, we'll see if he's there or not. But what about your first? What was your first lock of the week, Dr. Scaff? We
So
talked
you
about
went
your
with
lock.
the over on the Chiefs? Is that or Chiefs?
I went with the Chiefs.
Chargers. Yeah,
Chargers over 35.
35. Okay, nice.
I think it'll be 2017 will put me there, and I think at least one team can score over 20. So I like my odds.
Yeah, it seems that some of the Chiefs defense will be resting too, or at least resting for part of the game. So I mean, they have to have enough players to cover the actual game, at least anyway, the time of the game. They have to have people on the field. So they like some of the players have to be there, right? So they
Yes.
even should still be pretty decent, but it's not probably not going to be
But probably you'll leave Jones out some. You probably maybe rest Nick Bolton because he's had that injury. Maybe Snead or any of the corners that are a little banged up.
We'll
You
get at
start
least
playing your
some
backups a little bit
time,
more.
if
Yeah,
not most of the second half, maybe depending on how it
yeah.
goes. Yeah. So, but that's more opportunity for, points to be scored in the game at least anyway. You were going all over unders, I think this week. I still tried to like pick games that were between teams that have something to play for and those that don't. That's kind of my strategy, I think, for this week. So my first pick, I'm going with all spreads actually. So these are going to be all playoff contenders against teams that are either weaker playoff contenders or not in the playoffs as of now anyway. So I've got Detroit -3 against Minnesota. Minnesota, this is in Detroit. So Minnesota played really terribly last week. I think Detroit has an outside chance of getting the 2 seed if both Dallas and Philly lose their games. So I think they're still going to be trying to play to win that noon time slot. Philly and Dallas play at 3 p.m. So they won't know what the outcomes are for that before they go. So they have to win their game to have any chance to go at it. It's only a 3-point spread, so I think they will cover that -3.
I think
That's
that's
my first pick.
that's not bad. I think it's hard to say who's going to cover, but I think that makes sense. You think the team that wants it needs it more is going to uh play like they do, but sometimes that doesn't happen.
There are
Unfortunately.
spoilers. There are teams that go out there just for spite.
Would that be would you like to play on a team like that? Would you be a spite kind of guy?
Oh, for sure. If I'm out, if my team is out, then we definitely want to keep the other team from making the playoffs, though. Especially division rivals. Some of those the hatred is very deep. Uh, yeah, absolutely. Are you that way too, or would you not care?
It depends on who the team was.
Your
Yeah.
division rival, Mike.
Division rival, yeah, I would have a little bit of spite.
No.
But yeah, maybe yeah. If I were playing certain other games, it might be the
If it's a non-division rival, it probably doesn't matter.
non-division rival. Yeah, if it was, yeah. Well, I don't know. Basically, all the AFC games are division rivals, and so I think maybe all the games this week are division rivals. So
I think most of them are.
I think those games are tougher to handicap in general. And now with
Yeah.
this extra little, you know, do we need this game? Do we not need this game? That makes it even tougher. So I went with a NFC North matchup for my second bet, and this was Cleveland against Cincinnati. Cleveland has had a lot of success with Joe Flacco at quarterback. Cincinnati's had decent success, I guess, with Browning as its quarterback, but not quite as much as Cleveland. Cincinnati's not going to make the playoffs. Cleveland's already cemented in as the fifth seed in the AFC. So Joe Flacco's not going to be playing, but so I don't know who's going to win that game. I think probably if we Dorian Thompson Robinson or maybe PJ Walker is the quarterback for Cleveland, and any quarterback not named Joe Flacco has had trouble scoring points for Cleveland. So and Browning, I think maybe the league has caught up to him a little bit the last couple of weeks, and Cleveland has a very good defense. So the over under is 37.5. So I'm thinking probably under here. I think this is going to be a lower scoring game. It might be 20-17, but that would still give me under, right? Whereas for the Chiefs Chargers, it would get me over. So those 20-17 is actually the most common score, I believe, in modern NFL history. Home team 20, visiting team 17. So if I want that score to happen, I will win both of those. I will win both of my first two games. So that makes me feel good.
I thought maybe you're gonna pick exactas on those for the exact score.
Who exact score?
For
Oh,
both of
maybe
those
we can do
games.
that for the Super Bowl. I'm not sure if you can do that prop bet for NFL regular season games. Maybe they'll give you odds.
I think you can. I don't know why you would want to. That is probably the question. But why would you want to do that?
It's the ultimate craps kind of game, where it's
For
like,
sure.
I just want to put it all on 17.
Yeah,
No,
not a great idea.
no. But you win a lot of money if you only bet a few dollars. It's not it's a long shot, so it's a lottery ticket. So
Right.
why not? If you're gonna bet,
Well, as
a
long as
lot,
betting at all like isn't your life savings, it's like what you have like in your pocket change.
only bet what you can afford to lose, as Kurt Warner tells us on the advertisements airing during NFL games.
Wise advice.
Yeah.
Maybe less wise advice will be my second pick, which isn't advice. This is just what I'm going to do. But another game that's a potential playoff team. All they need to do is win to get in. Playing against a team that already is locked into the number 32 spot for the season. They've got Tampa Bay -4.5 at Carolina. Carolina isn't even playing for the draft pick that they have to trade to Chicago, so they really have nothing at all to worry about here or play for. Probably the ultimate spoiler opportunity, but I don't see why that would be the case in this game. I think Tampa should be able to cover. I would hope the 4.5 point spread by a few points. Maybe they'll win by a touchdown would be what I would hope to see. I suppose from this.
Yeah, I think New Orleans needs us. Not New Orleans. Tampa
Yeah,
Bay needs us. If New Orleans also needs a win to keep up with Tampa Bay, but Tampa Bay needs us to win the division, and Baker Mayfield's been solid this year, and Carolina's been bad. So yeah, I think that's a definite possibility. And this is maybe if you're Carolina, you're also starting to play for next year and see what you have in some of your backups. Play them a bit more. So who knows what will happen there. So yeah, I see the logic behind that bet, and I think it's sound. So but who knows if that will that will prove fruitful this week for you. I don't know if my third bet will
I'm
prove.
pretty sure I have lost betting against Carolina this season, and they've only won 2 games, so
Yeah,
it has happened.
you never know. It's the NFL. Any given Sunday, as they say many times. And on any given Sunday, I think my third pick could come up aces, or it could be snake eyes, which is the same number with aces and snake eyes, but one is good,
Yeah.
and one is not. In gambling parlance, usually snake eyes is bad, at least. But that's Dallas and Washington. I have Dallas and Washington. Dallas is playing at Washington. They've played at Washington late in the season 2 years in a row now. Last year, they really laid an egg and actually lost to the Commanders. And I'm thinking this year, I don't know if they're going to win or lose, but the over-under is 45.5. And that seems pretty high to me, especially given Washington's struggles offensively, and maybe Dallas's if Dallas gets out to a decent sized lead, maybe they'll just kind of coast and not necessarily try to score a whole lot and keep people healthy in the second half. So I like that to be a lower scoring game, and you never. And Dallas is streaky anyway offensively. They might have a tough time with Washington. It's hard to say, but I don't think Washington's going to score very many points at least. So I think Dallas is going to have to do most of the heavy lifting, and 45.5 is a high number to reach. And Dallas is still playing for something. They want that division championship, so they get a bye. They don't want to be the fifth seed, so. Philadelphia has the same record. So if Dallas loses and Philadelphia wins, Philly is either the number 2 or the number 3, and Dallas, if they win, are going to be either the number 2 or the number 3. So it's better than going on the road. So I think
the only way that either of them can end up being I think they're either the 2 or the 5. I don't think they can end up being the 3, because I think Detroit would move up. Oh no, wait, no, yes, or no, if they both lose.
If they both lose, I think
then Dallas is the 3. I think.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah, that's it.
If they both lose and Detroit wins, yeah.
Detroit has to win, and then if they both lose, then Dallas is the 3. That's it. Yeah. Right. So many scenarios to keep straight.
So many scenarios.
Last game.
At least after next week, we'll know what happened and who the playoff teams are, and then we'll have to think of the permutations for the future playoff games depending on who wins those games, because those games are not seeded in advance like most tournaments, but they are top seed plays the lowest ordinal seed,
right? Or the worst seed, if you want to.
Yes.
The best and worst.
Yes.
Right. So yeah, I mean the Dallas Washington game. If Dallas, scores a lot of points, chances are Washington didn't score anything, more or less. So
that's my hope. Even a 31-14 Dallas win would keep me under. So that's and I don't know if that's going to happen or not. But
even if it gets crazy and it's like 42-0 or something, that's still fine.
Dallas is favored by 13.5.
Yeah,
so
it is a big spread. So, but and then there's also that scenario that if Washington does play well, and it's a relatively close game, it's probably not still that high of a scoring game. It's probably more of a defensive game, and then but I like your reasoning there too. I think that makes sense to go with the under. This is probably not going to be a shootout. That's what I'd be shocked if it was a shootout.
Well, yeah, but now watch it be a 38-35 scorcher. but yeah, that's a very high number to me, and it's not necessarily two teams both playing for their playoff. It's not like they're Miami and Buffalo trying to probably outscore each other next week. That's probably the biggest game that we haven't discussed, but the Sunday night game. But yes, that's 49.5 and is the spread, and the Dallas Washington is 45.5. So that seems like 4 points lower. It seems pretty high to me for that spread. So I like 4 points lower than you think Buffalo and Miami are really going to score a lot, and it's only a 4 point total higher. That's I don't know. That doesn't. Yeah, that makes me, I guess, want to think that Dallas Washington will be under.
Yeah, that makes sense. Let's see. My last pick is for some reason, I don't know why I keep coming back to Houston for this season with Stroud playing well again, back playing for a potential playoff spot. Again, they're going to need to play well. And this is on Saturday, the Saturday night game. Houston's on the road at Indy, favored by 1.5 points. I still think that, with Stroud there, that they win this game by at least a field goal would be my expectation. And they did play well last week with Stroud back, so this, I think will continue that trend. But again, these are locks, but I'm not very confident in some of these picks this year. And I'm just now realizing what I should have done is, because you have picked first, I should have just taken your exact pick to ensure that I end up 1 point ahead of you, no matter what happens.
That would have been the way to stay ahead.
Why wasn't I thinking about that earlier when I made these picks, Mike? What have I done?
Well, you're a gentleman at heart, Underscuffy. You weren't thinking of the coward's way out to just shadow me. You could have shadowed me once you took a lead. You could have just picked the exact same ones I picked, and then it would have been impossible to come back. Or I could have
The
done the
ultimate
same thing
strategy.
after being ahead early in the season. I'll just pick the scaff picks, and then.
All the time, yeah.
But I think at least an unwritten rule is that we have to have different picks for our 6 locks of the week.
We
We can
sometimes
pick
opposed
opposite.
each other
Yeah,
on
we've done that a
picks,
couple
but
of
yeah,
times, but
picked in the same game or
mhm. And we
taking a
picked the same
different
game,
bet
I think,
within the
multiple
same
times
game.
too.
Yeah.
One does the over under, one does the spread. We've also been at odds on the spread. I don't think we've been at odds on the over under. I don't think either of us think as.
Yeah, I've only occasionally gone to the over-unders. I like the spread picks better personally, and just yeah, what I seem to like better at least anyway. And my odds on the over-unders across the season haven't been as accurate as the spread picks, but my locks haven't been that great overall, I guess either. So it's probably not necessarily the best way to go about it.
I tend to think of spreads first before I do over unders. I think I've done a little better on the spreads than I've done on over unders this year too. But I don't think I don't. But I don't really think I do better on one than the other. But I think when I make my picks, I think spread first, and then I go to over under. So
Yeah.
it's second. But today, like with the preseason, I thought over under is what I might have a better handle on because I am feeling insecure about spreads.
Especially with so many players resting and
Yeah.
games mattering for some teams, but they're still rivalry games, so they might matter for the underdogs, maybe more than it does for the playoff teams. I think they can coast in. You just never know what you're going to get in the last week. Probably not the best week to bet in general if you're doing this regularly. Would you agree with that?
Yes, unless you think this is where we can get an edge over the casual gambler or over the house because this is seen as an unpredictable. If you can find that some thread of predictability, it's like why maybe some people bet preseason football because there's maybe they're just really inveterate gamblers, but maybe they also see a way to um, make money in a way that maybe the Vegas guys don't pay as much attention to the spreads and the lines.
Yeah. Well, it's just as much of an unknown for probably the people that are setting the lines as it is
Yeah,
for the people watching the game. So that's where yeah, probably gets more. Like, I think in a typical game, the Vegas odds people know more than what they're, letting on, at least anyway, about who's available, who isn't available, that kind of thing.
and this is also probably one where the betting action might fall heavily in the regular season games that matter. Maybe all the bets are going to fall on one side, you can tell, and not on the other. But here, maybe this is unpredictable. Who knows which way people are going to lean here. So
Yeah.
yeah, it will be interesting to find out. Any games strike you especially on the schedule that we haven't talked about yet?
Yeah, well, the Buffalo Miami game is probably the
Yeah, I think that's
featured
the number
team
one
this
game
week. Yeah,
because Buffalo could become the number 2 seed, or they could be out of the playoffs entirely if they lose, and that's
it's
a
crazy.
huge roller coaster, I think, to go through. So I don't. Um, yeah, if you had to bet on that game, would you pick on the money line? Would you pick Buffalo or Miami? Buffalo is favored by 3 at Miami. I might take the points. I might take Miami +3 there because I think it's a coin flip game.
I think right now I'd be pretty comfortably betting on Buffalo on the road even. Just 'cause I think Miami took some injuries last week. It didn't look that great at all. It just in general in their game last week, getting crushed by Baltimore.
Yeah,
But they
but
they
Buffalo
did they
didn't
did
beat
take
New
a couple
England by
points
much
from
though
the field.
either.
Yeah. Yeah. So it seems like I don't know if it's just the situations Miami has that they just don't play well against the what are considered to be like the top tier teams, or if it's the situations that they don't do well with. But this is another one of those games that there's a lot riding on it for both teams, and maybe more so for Buffalo. So, but Buffalo's, relatively seasoned playoff team, so they kind of know what to expect. Miami's been in and around the playoffs recently, but they've just not played well against the best of the league this season. I don't know why that would change the last week of the year.
Yeah, it's hard to say. It's a divisional game too, so that adds fuel to it. It's also a playoff rematch of last year where Miami went up to Buffalo um, and almost won, even though they were down to their third string quarterback. And this year Miami has their starter Tua Tagovailoa, who's been healthy the whole season
All
so far.
year.
So I yeah, I think Waddle is Waddle going to be out. I think is that
I
the
think so. And I think they lost Chubb too.
yeah. Yeah.
So I know that doesn't help if they lose one of their top defensive backs. So
Yeah, but it's Miami at home. I like in Buffalo. I don't. Yeah, this is. It's one of the games that will affect the Chiefs because if the Chiefs play the sixth seed, and either Buffalo or Miami could wind up as the sixth very easily.
mhm.
They could also both wind up as the two. Uh, each one could wind up as the two, and the Chiefs would have to potentially play on the road
Mhm.
if um, if both the Chiefs and if both the Chiefs and Miami win their wild card games, the Chiefs would play at Miami. If the Chiefs and Buffalo win their wild card games, and Buffalo's the two, the Chiefs would play at Buffalo. So um, one of these, very likely one of those teams, the loser will be the Chiefs' first opponent, and the winner will be the Chiefs' second opponent, in at least in a large number of scenarios.
Yeah. But we're hoping for the 7 seed to win, right?
Yes.
Just in general. Anyway, so we want the strongest 7 seed possible as Chiefs fans to take out the two so that the Chiefs could get a second home game potentially.
Yes. And so that could be a rematch next week if Miami wins and Buffalo loses, Buffalo could drop to 7, and Miami could be the 2, and then Buffalo could win at Miami, which is easily possible. And then you'd
Yeah.
hope Buffalo would win at Baltimore, and the Chiefs would host Buffalo in the AFC Championship game if the Chiefs won all of their games. So
Yeah. So many permutations,
yes,
but we have to get through this week first to even get into the interesting ones when the playoffs get going. That's the
yeah, that's even more interesting, and we'll have and then even more exciting Warning Track Power Hour next week to talk about our playoff preview. Um, should we sign off tonight? Or today? We don't know if you're listening in the evening or not, but we're recording this in the evening. We're no longer recording the very early morning hours since my new job, but it's been this has been a very rewarding and exciting regular season, Dr. Scaff. I'm a little sorry to see it end, even though the Chiefs. Maybe I'm happy because I think the Chiefs maybe can put the regular season behind them. It was not their shining moment maybe than that people would thought would happen. But it's they've muddled through. They will make the playoffs, whether it's 11-6 or 10-7. They'll be the number 3 seed, and they'll have a playoff home game next week, and so we can look forward to that. A lot of other teams are still jockeying for position. But we'll deal with all that next time on the Warning Track Power Hour.
and we'll have the results of our season beginning of the season picks for over under win totals for all 32 teams.
Yeah, I think I am
As a
destined to be.
spoiler, it's not going well for either of
No.
us.
I think we will each be lucky if we only are, if we're 14-18 would be a great result for either of us. I think at this point we're both down I am
Big. Yes.
farther down even than you are. So we'll talk about that next week. We'll talk about also our locks of the week and see if we finished over 500 of the season, and which of us becomes the Scrooge and which of us remains the Glomgold of prognostication. And we have much more in store for you next time. And good luck this weekend to your teams. It's supposed to be a blizzard here, or a big snowstorm here this weekend. So
Ooh.
I think we're supposed to get 10 inches of snow
Oh, wow.
on Saturday. So that'll be interesting over the weekend here in Western Mountain, Maryland. So I will try to dress warmly.
Plan to stay inside and watch football all weekend, I'm guessing.
Yeah, I think that could be the plan. And we'll see. I'll let you know how that goes next time here on the Orange Red Power Hour. And until next week, I am Dr. Michael Werman. He is Dr. Andrew Scaff. We are the Warning Track Power Hour. Please like and subscribe to our YouTube channel or our podcast, which is available on many podcast delivery services. And we thank you again, and we wish you a good day.